The following video will only concern rustlegacy.eu's version of Rust Legacy Client 2014 and 2015. Yes, there are two of them, and I'll be giving a link to both. This will be about using a product called Simple Assembly Explorer. I will leave a link to the one I was able to get to do this. And it will refer to changing a characteristic that was successfully added to the video game that I think is not absolutely necessary. Seriously, after a while I stopped even using it sometimes. But it's nice to have the map there. And it's the map function, which is usually done by hitting the letter M. I will be reviewing another version someone else built from a completely different version. There's a lot of versions. That has a map key that you can change the keyboard assignment to, which is neat. But anyway, when you hit the letter M, it brings up a static image of the map. Just the lower 16th of the entire surface area of the entire island, called Rust Island 2013. And on it, it makes a little dot move around representing your position. Now, there are many ways of doing this, but the way that was done here is almost ideal, and it's easily visible. However, I needed one with a smaller dot. So let's start with where the dot is actually stored. I used Simple Assembly Explorer to experimentally find where it was and break the game several times, and found it under Rust, the directory structure, rust_data/managed/assembly-CSharp.dll. Within that, if it's taken apart with this program, it then reverse engineers the executable by disassembling it back into what looks almost like the source code for building it, or not, depending on your opinion. On the left side, you'll see various entries if you use Simple Assembly Explorer, the one I'm going to link to. The first thing we look under our tree heading, it's a lot like a directory tree, is a double curly bracket entry. Under that, we look for PlayerClient, capitalized P, capitalized C for PlayerClient. Under that, we look for awake, parentheses, colon, void. Under that, at line 26 or thereabouts, you should see something referencing byte, bracket, data equals convert dot from Base64 string, and or Unity Engine dot texture2d space player client colon pointer. If you're not aware of it, this is the Rust Legacy client's player pointer information that says to the game, this is where the player is positioned approximately. And if you're not aware of it, this can be at any altitude. It can also include altitude data, but it's an X, Y, or more actually XZ format. Unity Game Engine uses a weird method for the three-dimensional coordinates. But let's move on. Under that, you will find a listing for this Base64 string of characters. Each character has one of 64 values in it. Now, if you're not aware of what that means, let's do a thought experiment. 26 letters of the alphabet, uppercase, 26 letters of the alphabet, lowercase, and let's say some numbers, and then a couple of extra characters. 26 plus 26 equals 52, I think. Okay, 52, plus 10 characters, that's 62, because 10 numbers. And we end up with needing just a couple more so we can have 64 combinations in every single position that we call a character or a digit. When we're dealing with a number value that has each digit being that many characters or that many combinations, that gives you an idea what's going on. Now, each of these spaces can hold 6 bits. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64 combinations. I guess I should do a joke about AI hands. Anyway, the point is, when we're at that point, we have in each character, we can store 6 bits of data in a file that usually uses 8-byte or 8-bit bytes. This allows us to store, technically, a file within a file is just a string of characters you and I could type out and email to each other. This is a clue of how we used to do something called a EML file for emailing, sending some method for coding a picture that was embedded in an email or whatever. This is internally how things are done. Inside of this file, Assembly-CSharp.dll, this is how it's encoded, that pointer. Now, an alternative method is almost directly above it for it grabbing a map.PNG file. This is a file that's easily edited. You can make your own custom maps. This is great. But the pointer wasn't something I could edit. Later on, I might do a video on how to make it to where it just uses something you call pointer.PNG, and that'll be the pointer. But anyway, it defaults to being a 10 by 10 block. Now, it notes it in hexadecimal as A, or 0A. A is the value for the number 10 in binary, or excuse me, in hexadecimal interpretation of binary. The point is, or the pointer is, this has got to be a 10 by 10 image. Now, because it's a PNG file, if you make part of it transparent, so it's like a GIF, or if you make it a different size, or have more or less complexity, the length of that string you have to type in changes. Remember, this is a piece of software, Simple Assembly Explorer, that on the fly figures out how to decompile a program. Hopefully it wasn't made to where we can't do it, and then it recompiles it with this new value. Over half the time, it makes the file bigger. So we need to do just one edit. I've included the code below. Hopefully it won't get scrambled by YouTube. For a 2 by 2 green dot, because normally it's a 10 by 10 round dot. This will be a square dot in the middle, because it's round numbers. It's hard to find a center. Another one will be a 3 by 3 crosshair that's offset slightly. Okay. Another one is a 5 by 5 cross that I've offsetted. And then last, the original 10 by 10 dot. I'll also include a 9 by 9 one that it then stretches, which is a bad idea, but it did do it, to where you actually have a centered cross. Why would I need to do this? I wanted more precision. I actually wanted it to be a single pixel, but the 2 by 2 pixel pattern is better for the map so you can actually see it, but it's really hard to see. Making a cross or an X works better. The problem is to make that and have it be centered, it won't. Now, the reason I'm doing it is I want to redo the map.png, one of many I've fiddled with in the past, and make it to where it truly lines up all of the objects down to the point that I could walk up to a tree that's visible in the map that I took a screenshot of and actually be at the tree. I want to get it that precise. I'm obviously not going to do it to the precision for a tree, but how about for, one of the boulders, or at least get the road right? It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, having it imperfect and looking hand-drawn actually reduces the amount of fiddling people think, and they don't get annoyed by it. But I'm trying to do it so that I can map the thing for a different reason. Now, other game re-rips of Rust Legacy use a completely different method. They just have your camera, the eyeballs that you have for your character, pop up above the ground and look straight down, and just look at the actual physical layout, while excluding things like not showing players, making sure that you can't cheat by looking around walls, that sort of thing, not letting you zoom in and out, that sort of thing. And that kind is a better one, and I'll be experimenting with trying to make that work in the game later, from other games like Rust Relic and Rust Rome and a couple of dozen others that I can't even remember the names of. I'm going to have a whole review and roundup at the end of this month, probably, for every version I can download and leave all links. But, point of fact, that kind means that no matter where you go on the map, which is much bigger than the one we see on the screen if you play the game, you will actually be able to see what's going on around you, because it will use a screenshot-based map PNG looking down by just looking down at the ground. And it'll just be every couple of seconds it'll update. So as you're moving around, your dot will move, and then it will update where you are and slowly move the map underneath you, or maybe move it in big chunks. I don't know. Depends. Depends on which version you're looking at. I'm going to try to find one and add it in and make it towards an add-on or a plug-in for the game. Also, some servers will let you do that because it will present to you a display of sorts and just insert the picture and show you where you are on the map for a few seconds, and then you just hit a button and it goes away. I haven't figured those out yet. So anyway, to review, this is about making the player pointer on the physical map that pops up change size by making it smaller. I don't think you can make it larger, but it might be possible. And later on, again, where it has this instruction about convert from Base64 string, I can tell it to just do the same procedure that was used to bring in the map PNG and have it bring in the pointer.PNG in RAM and use it instead. But we'll see how that works out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. That's what this video is about. Information below will include all of the different sizes from a 2x2 dot all the way up to a the normal size big round one, 10 by 10, and also a 9 by 9 square with a simple cross in the middle that's 1 pixel thick.